everyone. Today we are here with class 7 geography and it is chapter 4, right? As you know, this chapter is air. We have already done with day 1 and day 2, means I had already started this chapter 2 days back and we finished up with most of the part. Right now here we are here with a number of rest of the points. Let's see what that point is. Fine. So we are going to talk about this chapter now. Yesterday we finished there at what? We have finished there at weather and climate, right? So what we basically talked about? We basically talked about one thing, and what it was basically about one thing, that weather is day to day and hour to hour changes. And what is season? Season is what? So season is what? Season is, yes, I've just started now. So what I was telling, that weather means day to day changes and hour to hour changes. But the same kind of weather if continues for like around 2 or 3 months, it is called as season. And the third one is the same kind of climatic condition, the same kind of weather for a longer period of time, means around 10 years and more than that, that is known as climate. So yesterday we finished with it, that what is weather, season I added, and after that comes the climate, right? Now we are going to talk about temperature. So what is temperature here? Let's see. What is temperature here? So when we talk about temperature, generally we know temperature is what? Temperature is it is either the high or the low, right? Either it is hot or it is cold. This is called temperature, right? This is called temperature. Temperature is measured in what? It is measured by thermometer. Like if I give an example of fever, so how can we find out, how can we find out what is the temperature of the body? So just using the thermometer we can easily find out the temperature. Even the same applies in all the cases, that if you want to find out the temperature of any area or body or something, it is only the thermometer which is helping us to know about, right? Now the matter comes, you also know that if right now, if we talk about now season, so it is the season of rainy, right? If we talk about summer and winter season, then also we find the temperature at daytime is different and the temperature at night time is different. Daytime it may be very hot, and nighttime it may be comparatively cool, right? If you talk about Rajasthan, day is very hot and night is extremely cold, right? It happens in the areas which are to the western part of India and the areas which are having like moderate temperature. What we find here, we basically see that the temperature is fluctuating. Daytime and nighttime it is totally different, right? So now the matter comes, season to season it varies. Winter season it extremely cold or different, actually depends on the areas in which latitude the area lies. If the area lies in equatorial area, like near to the equator, we find the day is very hot and the nights are almost okay, but it's still hot. When we talk about the temperate zone, we basically find that the weather is very hot. The weather is hot, moderate actually. Daytime is hot, nighttime is cool. It depends, even season by season what it varies. If we talk about the poles, what do you find? The day is also very cold and the night is extremely cold, like all the seasons. Now the matter comes that if day to night it is changing, season to season it is changing. So is there any other reason behind? Yes, there is one more reason behind it. Let me tell you, that general concept we have is summer is hotter and winter is cooler, right? It is very basic thing. Now we are going for insolation. Insolation is very important in terms of temperature. Now you may have a new word with you, insolation. What does it mean by insolation? So let me tell you, yesterday only I talked about one thing, global warming. If the temperature, if the like pressure, or if the quantity of CO2 increases, what happens? It absorbs the solar heat or heat from the sun, and it doesn't allow to go back. It traps the heat of the sun, right? This is all related to insolation. If I talk about insolation, let me tell you very clear that this is the earth, okay, this is the earth crust. The sun rays have come here, but when the sun rays come, it is crossing through, it is passing through a number of things. What those things are? It is passing through the layers of the atmosphere. Fine. So when it is passing through the layers of atmosphere, means from the sun to the earth crust, we find that it is crossing, it is passing through a number of things. So the through the things it is passing, those things are absorbing the sun heat. So if you find the layers of the atmosphere, 5 layers of atmosphere are there, so some part they are absorbing, so they are sending somewhat less. Now you also know that the sun spreads its light everywhere, right? The heat is everywhere, almost equal, especially at the time of, at the place of equator, it is very hot and temperate and all. We are not talking about that right now, but basic thing is it is coming to the part of the land, and a number of things are absorbing it. So what we find here, the ocean is also absorbing the sun heat, the earth is also absorbing the sun heat, and after some part is being trapped here by the earth, and by the land part, by the ocean means by the water part, right? What I told you, that atmosphere, first atmosphere, like layers of atmosphere is absorbing the heat of the sun. Whatever is left apart from that, it comes here and then goes back, right? The sunlight is coming, the heat of the sun is coming here, and it goes back also. In between, it is being uh, absorbed by this part, it is being absorbed by the land as well as by the water part also, and as it is being trapped, it is being absorbed, rest part is removed from here. Now the matter comes, you just imagine the area which is having like equator. Now I'm talking about equator. You just see, this is the earth, I'm just taking it as a curve. So this is the earth here, and this is the sun. Okay, so this is the earth and this is the sun. What happens, as you know about solstice, summer solstice and winter solstice. So basically what we want to know, that this is closer, this is closer, and this area is very far, right? The area which is very far. So the area which is very closer, this is the equatorial part. Then we are having the temperate zone, and the last we are having the poles, right? So if we find here, we find that the rays of the sun is near to the equatorial part, near to the equator, and from the tropic of Cancer to tropic of Capricorn. Okay, from the tropic of Cancer to tropic of Capricorn is the area which is getting the sunlight for the most time. Most of the time it is getting the sunlight. So what happens, if the sunlight is there for much amount of time, what will happen? It will undoubtedly trap more heat, and when it will trap more heat, it will, that area will get more temperature. I hope you are getting me. Like what I wanted to say, I'm just repeating that what happens, any area which is getting more like heat for much time, heat for more amount of time, will absorb it more. For an example, if you boil water only for 5 minutes, or if you boil water for 10 minutes, what will happen? There is a difference. If you boil water only for 5 minutes, it will heat later, it will heat less. Okay, but after 5 minutes it will cool down. But what happens with the water which is boiled for around 10 minutes and more than that? That particular water is getting more heat, more temperature, more heat, and after that what will happen? It will start steaming, like the steam will come out and more water will evaporate. The same applies here, that equatorial part is getting equatorial part, and from tropic of Cancer to tropic of Capricorn, this area gets the sun heat of the sun for much amount of time. For much amount of time means, if you talk about the equatorial areas, even the sun rises at the same time, but the heat is for much amount of time. Then what will happen? It will undoubtedly, if it is for more time, it will absorb more heat. So this part which will absorb more heat will have more and more temperature. I will give you more heat, you will have more. I will give you more chocolates, you will have more. The same applies here, that the sun gives, as the sun is closer to it, it will give more heat to it, and what will happen? It will capture also, it will trap more heat, and this area, that's why is experiencing more and more heat. The same applies here to the poles. When you talk about the poles, what you find, they are very far, and they are getting at least like for 6 months days, 6 months night. But the 6 month nights, we know that it's totally cold, extremely cold, because there is no sunlight. But when we talk about the daytime, which is for 6 months, what happens this time? It is experiencing the heat of the sun, but let me tell you what happens. It's not that effective. Yes, it's only day. You can find the daytime, but the sun heat is not absorbed much because it is very, very, very far. So if it is very far, light will get less. It will have the daytime for less time. Then what will happen? Undoubtedly, this area will, the land part will absorb less heat of the sun, and undoubtedly if it will absorb less heat, it will have less temperature. So remember one thing, insolation matters a lot in terms of atmosphere. Okay, so when we talk about temperature, insolation matters a lot. Second thing, I told you that it is totally up to the area. Where does this area lie, on at which latitude this particular area lie? Along with this, you might have also seen that the villages are comparatively cooler as from the cities. Why it happens? There is also a reason behind. Because when we talk about the villages, we find they are having pakka houses, they are having the metal roads, but they are having more soil, right? But if we talk about the cities, they are having more and more metal road, everything is plastered. If you go to a society, that is also plastered. Hardly the small garden is not plastered. Rest of all the parts are plastered. If you talk about the cities, the multi-story buildings are there, and they all are isolated, they all are plastered well. So what happens? More number of people, more metal roads, more number of buildings, and they all are fully metalled. So what happens? They will absorb more heat. They will absorb more heat, and what happens? Day night they will absorb heat, but night they will release it. So in the cities you find the days are hot, but the nights are not cool. Nights are not cool because daytime these buildings, these metal roads, they have absorbed, they have trapped the sunlight, sun heat, and at night time they start releasing it. So where will the sun heat, the heat of the sun will go? It will be trapped there only. That's why the cities and the towns are having higher temperature always as compared to a village. But village you find, the village is not having 5-story and 7-story building. It's having hardly 2 or 3-story building. It is having metal road, but not this much broad. It is having the gardens, but it's not having the gardens. Actually, they are having the fields. So there are few things which are always affecting, and this is everything related to insolation. How much insolation means? How much heat has been absorbed by the earth and other things. That only matters about the insolation. So if insolation is directly, what I said, insolation is directly related to the temperature of the area. Now we are coming to the next part, and this part is air pressure. So what does it mean by air pressure? Remember, when we talk about air pressure, if I take you to two places, like one place is, if I take you to two places, one place is what? One place I had to take you to a hill station, right? And it's having moderate temperature, like especially if I take you to Guwahati. So what happens in Guwahati? Every time the temperature is like, it's never cloudy. Almost it is always cloudy. It may rain also many times, but happens so, it is the pressure. Like basically we have a feeling the air is putting pressure on us, but I cannot like find it anywhere. Do I feel that air is pushing us from any place? Yes, air is pressing, but actually we know that air is present everywhere, right? So air pressures from here also, from left also, from right also, from the back also, from the front also. So as it pressures from all the sides, then we are not able to feel it. That's why we don't feel it. Else, let me tell you, air is having lots of pressure, and the pressure it pushes, you can easily imagine when you find that it is like the air is blowing very fast, and you are going with an umbrella, and the umbrella goes back. Sometimes it may happen the umbrella goes back or just becomes topsy-turvy. You're just trying to hold it properly, but it goes totally back. It is air pressure. Sometimes you feel when there is air pressure, like you can also find air pressure when there is smoke and smog and it is blowing with the air. So what is it? It is just because of the air. Air is having pressure, then only it can remove, it can take something away with it, right? This is undoubtedly happen, this can happen. And now I want to talk to you about the air pressure. How does it affect? So generally what happens, you also know that air is having a different kind of scene. That what happens, the whole, everywhere is air, right? Everywhere is air. What happens, this air, here the temperature is very high. What happens when the temperature is high? What will it make? It will make the air lighter. It will make the air warm, and when the air gets warmer, it goes up. It goes up. Okay. When it goes up, what will happen about this place? The side by air will come and fill this place. And this air goes up, then what will happen? It will cool down and will again come back. So this is the general process. What happens? Hey, over here it is hot. Air goes up. This one comes back. This one comes here. Okay, because it is cool. It is because it is told air is everywhere. So what happens? It is going up. When it cools down there, it again comes back. It again comes back from this side. So basically what happens? Air is having pressure, and how it happens? The areas which is having more temperature, like equatorial area which is having more temperature, what happens? Or some oceanic part you find which is having high temperature, the air goes up faster. The air goes up faster, and this air comes back to fill this area. So what will happen? This is the very fast movement of air. You just find this air went up and immediately this air, if this one is very fast, this will also very fast, right? This very fast, going up is very fast, and coming closer is also very fast. So what will happen? This increases the movement of the air. Very fast going up, by the side one will come in between. Going very fast, by the side come in between. So this is how the air is circulating from here to there, it is going. This is the whole happening here. Now we are coming to the next one, that what happens? Then any area which is very hot will have low pressure, and the area which is less hot, like which is cloudy, because if it is cloudy, it is not having much sunlight, and if it is not having much sunlight, what will happen? This air will go very slowly. So what will have? Will have more amount of water on the land part. So it is the area which is having the high air pressure. So when we are having high air pressure, we many times we find ourselves that it is not good. We don't feel good if the sky is very cloudy, if the weather is very wet. So it always put a pressure on us, and the movement of the air is not much, right? If the air is not going up because of heat, it requires heat. But in the cloudy season, you might have seen that there is headache, and sometimes we feel like suffocation, we feel like sweating. Sometimes, many times it happens like that. Why does it happen? Because there is no movement of the air. Air doesn't move much. If the air will not move much, will be able to breathe properly, will be able to get everything? No, undoubtedly no. So here we find that air always moves from high pressure to the low pressure. Why high pressure to the low pressure? Because where is low pressure, air will go up. If it is low pressure, air will go up, and wherever is a high pressure, the air will come this side. So remember, every time it goes from the high pressure reaches to the low pressure, because low pressure air goes up. So high air pressure comes here to fill it. Now we are coming to the next part, which is wind. So when you talk about wind, like as I talked about the wind, like you're having umbrella and it goes up and all that, it's all because of wind. If you found that there is storm, sometimes wind is very harmful also. Like very harmful in the sense then wind is only creating storm. Wind is only when it is very hot wind blowing, it is known as loo. When it is very chilled, it is very harmful. So in all the cases we find the wind is good when it is very slightly, it is moving very slightly, then it is known as breeze, and we feel very cool, right? We feel very cool, we feel very good. But if the wind is blowing very fast, it's like a storm, it's like a cyclone, what will happen? You might have heard about the cyclones. It is just because of the air pressure and the wind only. Yes, air pressure on the wind. The tropical areas, what happens? Undoubtedly, there is more air pressure, and it starts moving and it reaches to the land part. If we talk about Odisha facing the same problem, if we talk about West Bengal facing the same problem, and each and everything happens in this tropical areas. Okay, everything happens in the tropical areas only. Now, I want to tell you about the two kind of winds which are blowing. So the first wind which is blown from wind which is blowing from west is called westerly, and which is the wind which is blowing from the east, it is known as easterly. Okay, so the next page which I'm going to share with you is basically talking about the westerly and easterly wind. So let me tell you, westerly means wind blowing from the west side is westerly. Easterly means wind blowing from east side is known as easterly wind, right? Now I'm taking you to the next one. What is the next part here? So this is what? There are three kinds of winds. Okay, three types of winds are there. So one is a permanent wind. If you just talk about the permanent wind, what is the permanent wind? It's a kind of trade wind. Trade wind means the wind. Westerlies and easterlies are the trade wind, westerlies and easterlies. There are three kinds of wind you can find here. Trade winds, westerlies and easterlies are the permanent winds, right? They are called the permanent winds. And why they are called the permanent wind? Because they are blowing for throughout the year in a particular direction. In a fixed direction, they are moving throughout the year. That's why they are known as permanent wind. Now we know about the seasonal wind. What does it mean by seasonal wind? The wind which blows season by season. Season by season is called as seasonal wind. This is called seasonal wind. Means for an example, in the monsoon we are having wind which is blowing with lots of humidity. When we talk about summer, it's Lu, and the winters also. Like different seasons, we are having different kind of winds from different directions. If we talk about winter season, so we are getting wind from the northern part, from the Himalaya side. That's where we are feeling chilled, where we are feeling very cold. If the wind comes from the southern part, we'll feel less cold. But if it comes from the northern side, we feel more cold. If we talk about monsoon, so what is about the monsoon? We are getting rainfall in India just because of the southwestern monsoon. So it is also what? It is the seasonal wind. It is the seasonal wind which is coming from the from the Arabian Sea, and some part coming from the Bay of Bengal, and it is bringing rainfall in India. So what is that? The seasonal winds are creating seasons which are changed season to season. Now local winds are wind what? Local winds are the wind, just they are for a particular period of time. For an example, we call it Lu. So it is there in northern part, like northeastern part we have, northern part we have. Then we have like summer season we find Lu. In the coastal areas we find sea breezes there. So what is it all about? It is basically about the local winds. Breeze, wind breeze, sea breeze doesn't blow in the northern part, because it's the local. It is from the seaside. So it is limited to that particular area. And Lu never is there. Lu is never there in the coastal area. So it is just related to some particular areas. That's why it is known as local winds, right? Now we are coming to this figure, this major pressure belts and wind system. This is figure number 4.4. If you talk about figure number 4.4, what is it? We'll just go for it, but in detail. Okay, this, you just see this image. Yeah, so if you just go for this image, you just see here, what is it actually? If we talk about this, as I told you about the westerlies and easterlies, so we are basically focusing about this one. You just see equatorial low pressure. Why is it equatorial low pressure area? It is very important. Why? The air from this side and this side, from the up to down and up to down and down to up is coming. Means why the coming is near to the equatorial area. Why? because we also know the equators are very hot. They get most amount of heat of the sun. They are very hot. If the weather is very hot, what will happen? The wind will blow up very faster, right? It will blow up very fast. It will move, it will get warm, it will go up. It will get warm and it will go up. This process goes on very fast. So if this process goes on very fast, what will happen? What is the work of rest of the wind? It will directly come to this side and it will come from this side to fill this area, right? It will come to fill this area. So what we find, it is very natural that equatorial part is having low pressure. That's why the wind from this side and the wind from this side is always coming, right? Now again we find it is having the low pressure. We got to know equatorial low pressure it has. That's why the wind is coming here and here. Now you just see one more is a low pressure, subpolar low pressure and subpolar low pressure. It is also here what happens, that this is the area which is having low pressure. This area is having high pressure. What does it mean by high pressure? The temperature is not much. Temperature is not much. So it doesn't, the process of warming of the air, like process of warming of the air is not very fast. So what happens here? It becomes a high pressure area. This also becomes a high pressure area. Okay. Now polar areas and subpolar areas, it is experiencing low pressure. When this area low pressure, what will happen? The air from this side, the air from this side will come, and here the air, this is again the low pressure, air from this side, and the air hold on, the air from this side and the air from this side will definitely come here, right? So we find here air from different parts. So finally what happened? This area is low pressure, this area is low pressure, this area is low pressure. What is that? Equatorial low pressure, subpolar low pressure and subpolar low pressure. There are three places in the world which are low pressure area, okay? And these areas are getting, as they are low pressure, what happens? The wind moves up and up, okay? The wind moves up and up. So rest of the wind comes here from the high pressure area, comes to the low pressure. So this is the high pressure area, high pressure area. What happens? It is coming to this side. High pressure area, wind comes to the low pressure. High pressure comes to the low pressure. Finally, we get to know that this only happens, right? This happens here. Now we are coming to the last one, which is actually the last one. So I think we should end up the class today, because we are left with a question answer and cyclone and all, which is everything related to it. So better we'll go for this class tomorrow, and we'll try to finish the chapter tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll have the little bit the revision of this chapter, and few topics are still left to talk about. So we'll talk about those few topics first, and after that we'll go for the question answer of this chapter. So we'll try to finish it up. Rainfall, many more things are actually very important here. We are going to talk about precipitation, we are going to talk about rainfall, we are going to talk about the pressure, we are going to talk about this moisture like humidity, and after that we'll go for the question answer. So as we are left with many more things to talk about, so definitely I must say that I should end up the class, and we'll meet tomorrow sharp at 7 o'clock, and we'll try to finish this chapter. But I have a request that if you have any doubt right now also, till what we have studies, we can discuss it tomorrow. So be ready with your questions, and we'll meet by 7 o'clock. By the time, just give a thumb to my video if you like it. If really it was good for you, like this, give a like to it, and thank you so much.